Well, welcome back. Welcome anew to the Further Faster podcast. I am, of course, Joseph McClendon III, and I will be your host, your guide, and maybe even your mentor on this leg of your journey to help you do exactly what the name implies, and that is to go further, faster in becoming more wealthy. And around here, wealthy means to be healthy, happy, and financially abundant. And so I got a question for you. And the question is, you ever wonder how and why some people are able to stay in the game despite the hardships, despite the odds against them? Well, my guest today is Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Unless you've been living under a rock, he is a star of TV and film and a Grammy-winning musician. And he's going to share with us a little bit of insight as to how he's been able to not just stay in the game, but thrive in this game as well. So grab a pad and paper, and we'll be right back with Malcolm-Jamal Warner. You know, oftentimes when we see or hear of or know of people that have longevity and success, we think several things. Sometimes, you know, they're born with a silver spoon in their mouth, or they had, options that the rest of us don't, and so on and so forth. And although sometimes some of those things are true, also what exists is that those people have learned lessons and gone through things in their lives that have conditioned them to show up a different way than most people do. My guest today is my dear friend of several years now, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. His name is Malcolm-Jamal Warner. And again, unless you've been living under a rock, you know that this man has been on the scene, if you will, or has been in an industry that the odds of being successful, let alone having longevity in these two industries, is minusculely small by biblical proportions, and that's without exaggeration. His name is Malcolm-Jamal Warner, and again, he is a star of TV and film, and is also, you may or may not know this, a Grammy-winning, not just a nominated, but Grammy-winning musician, unbelievable bass player, and also father and husband. And he's my guest here today, and he's going to share with us a little bit about how he's been able to stay in the game and kind of what goes along with that. So, Mal, are you out there?
I am here. What's happening, brother?
There he is. How are you, my friend?
I'm well, brother. I am well. And yourself?
I could not be better. And so, as I was saying to the great folks out there, well, first off, let's start off this way. And in all fairness, you've been at this game or these games for several decades now. So there might just be one or two people out there that might not know from where you came. So start us off by sharing with us a little bit, about your humble beginnings, if you will, just to kind of put some fuel on the fire about where you came from and kind of what makes you who you are.
Sure. Well, I guess we do have to allow space for, those who do live under a rock. Oh, by the way, so my name is Malcolm-Jamal Warner. So Malcolm-Jamal is my first name. Yeah. So Malcolm-Jamal is my first name. So we can actually start there.
Start there, please.
So my first name is Malcolm-Jamal. My father named me after Malcolm X and Ahmad Jamal. My dad went to school with Gil Scott-Heron and Brian Jackson. They went to Lincoln University. My dad went to Lincoln University because Langston Hughes went to Lincoln University. So I was, I literally came out of the womb listening to Gil Scott-Heron and The Last Poets. And it's to say that I was actually a poet before I was an actor. I remember telling my parents that I was going to grow up and either be a famous poet, a famous actor, or a famous basketball player.
Interesting.
Don't ask about my basketball game, but 2 out of 3 isn't bad. I got the poetry and acting part down. And for those of you who maybe have lived under a rock, I started doing television at a very young age. the catalyst to my career was this humble show called The Cosby Show. That show really set me, with regard to, social consciousness, being more than an actor. During my summer vacations, my father used to make me read these. They had this thick book called Great American Negroes. And there were chapters on, Langston Hughes, Richard Wright, Ray McLeod Bethune, Marian Anderson. And I had to read these chapters and write book reports. And, my father was just really heavy on the arts, but also heavy on me understanding my culture and understanding from whence I came. So, being a part of The Cosby Show was a great, it gave me a platform, if you will, right? So the show, Cosby was not just a successful, popular show. It was a show that had a profound impact on the global culture. It had a profound impact on how white America and Black America and the world, for that matter, how we all saw Black people in a different light. Like, for the first time on television, these were not stereotypical roles and stereotypical boxes that Black people tend to be, Black images to be contained in. So it was a wonderful way to walk through life, knowing that the work I was doing was having a significant social impact on American culture, and almost maybe more importantly, Black culture.
Yeah. I got to interject here for a second, because there are a couple things that, here at Further Faster, we talk about the three things, the 60-20-20 rule. Psychology, 60%, everything that you do and you accomplish comes down to three things: 60% your psychology, 20% your energy, and 20% magnetism. And in all that you're saying, there are two things I want to point out. First off, you and I have known each other for several years, and you told me, your beginnings way back when we met. And when you told me about your father making you do book reports and things like that, and I always have held you, and still do hold you in high esteem. Guess what I did with my son on Summer Times? Yeah, that's exactly what I did with him.
Great.
I pulled him out. And by the way, he did not appreciate it at the time at all.
I didn't
at all. Yeah, exactly. And lo and behold, as a result of that, he shines in that area now. He has a film school or film class in school. He's a great writer, and he does those things. And he's 16 years old, so he'll never admit that. He'll never admit now that gave him some of his skill in doing that. The other thing is, when you talk about your father, and also I'm sure you talk about your mom and her influences that with you as well going on, that in terms of magnetism and somebody telling you that you were either going to be basketball, film, or poetry, that, in my opinion, set up, at the risk of sounding too unicorns, crystals, and rainbows, set up the universe to bring around the opportunity for you to do a show like The Cosby Show, which, again, as you said, was not only groundbreaking, but it was groundbreaking for its time as well, but set you up to be the perfect person to be in that spot, to be the perfect person to have everything that it took to not just be that character, but be that representation of what is possible at those times.
Yeah, definitely. Like I talk about my dad, my father gave me the voice and the knowledge. Mm. My television father gave me the platform.
Right. Oh, nice. Love that. So go on. So share with us a little bit. So, and by the way, how old were you when you first started The Cosby Show?
When I started Cosby, I was 13 when we shot the pilot, and then when the show started to air, I was 14. Wow. But I started theater. I was doing theater around 9 years old. Theater was just really something for my mother was always looking for things for me to do outside of just going to school, coming home, and hanging out with my friends. So there was basketball. Yeah. And there was 1 year, and I really loved basketball, but there was 1 year, 1 season, in 1 year, basketball season was over, and she was still looking for things. So my mother's friend suggested this acting workshop, and my mom asked me if I wanted to go down and audition to get in. And it was basically it was children's theater, it was community theater, and I was doing theater for a while, and then there was a play I was doing. An agent came down, wanted to sign me, and approached my mother. My mother had school, and she was in her last year of school, and she basically said, "Listen, I'm in school. I can't take him out on audition, so thank you, but no thank you." And then the following year, the same agent came back, saw me in another play, and approached my mom again and was like, "Listen, you're no longer in school. You finished school. You have no excuse. I still want to sign your son." So we were like, "Okay, cool. This would be fun." But it wasn't really something we looked at as a career. Doing theater, I was doing some television stuff, but it wasn't until Cosby had come along, and really that's when it became a career.
And so share with us a little bit about when you started Cosby, what was life like for you in terms of the discipline? Because listen, again, I'm preaching to the choir. You had to stay in school. You had to keep your grades going. You had all that stuff. And there was a lot going on for a 14-year-old boy. Yeah. Share with us a little bit about what it was like for you. Was it something that you thrived on doing and that you wanted to do, or was there somebody that had to push you through that as well?
No, I mean, when I was doing theater, it was very clear that was the thing I wanted, right? That was the carrot my mother would dangle in front of me, like, in order.
Okay.
Yeah, I had to have my chores done. I had to keep up my grades, or I couldn't go to the theater.
Nice.
So that was the thing that she kept. She kept in front of me to make sure that I took care of my responsibility. So, there's a certain self-discipline and self-accountability that she was instilling in me already. So by the time Cosby came, and so here's what also was interesting too. When I got the agent, I was working a lot, and I got to a point where, I'm doing television, I'm doing 2 theater productions at the same time. I'm like, 12, 13 years old, like I'm feeling myself too. Like, I'm at school and kids are starting to recognize me from television, and, I'm a Leo, like, life is good. Yeah. And that's,
at 12.
Yeah, exactly. And, my 7th grade year, I was really feeling myself. And I let a lot of that go to my head rather. And then 8th grade came along, and I could not book an audition to save my life.
Interesting.
Going on 3, 4, 5 callbacks, getting close, but not getting the role. And that was most of my 8th grade year. And I don't remember what the conscious thought was, what the actual words were that I said to myself, but there was the reality of, none of this is promised. Right. As quickly as it can come, it can go. So it was a very early lesson on humility. And once I figured that out and, got off of came down off of my high horse, I booked Cosby. Right. So I always say, had I gotten Cosby a year earlier, I might be a slightly different person. But I was able to learn that lesson of humility and immense gratitude with that. So by the time Cosby came along, I was like, oh no, this is, however long this lasts, I want to be on point. I want to be grateful. I want to be humble. And that show Out the Box was, huge. It was a phenomenon.
Yes. I want to laser in on something that you said. And for the benefit of everybody here, because remember, around here, this is about you going further, faster. And when you can pinpoint some things and do them for yourself, then it'll help you do that. It'll help you go further, faster. When you said that you recognized in that moment that I'm going to say your ego was in the way, and you learned that lesson. What did you do differently? Did you come off it? What did you say to yourself? What kind of conversation did you have with yourself about, hey, I know you said one thing, and that was that nothing is permanent, but was there a conversation that you had with yourself that maybe re-instilled what was there before your head started to swell?
It's a good question. I can't say that I remember exactly what the conversation was with myself. I knew that, I definitely knew that I should go back to being nicer to people, like I was before. My head swole. And I think there was also, I knew that I would be very grateful when I got the opportunity to work again.
Perfect.
I still remember, what the exact conversation was, but those were the two things that stood out for me.
And if you could describe what that feeling was, that you got that made you go, hey, wait a minute, what would you call that feeling?
I guess, at 12 years old, I guess, I was sad. And I don't know looking back, some depression that came with it. I don't know if I would have, I don't know if I would have called it depression at 12 years old, but I just remember being sad. And
right. Okay. So perfect. The reason I'm asking you these questions is there's always a sequence. You know how we roll up in here. There's always a sequence of what makes us do what we do. Every emotion is preceded by a thought. And those thoughts come about either two ways. Something stimulates us from the outside, which is generally the way something comes along and says, it's like a slap in the face, or something happens and it stimulates us to wake up, or something from the inside comes up as a result of it's just a repetition, but usually it's something stimulated from the outside. So your stimulation from the outside came from you weren't getting booked and you weren't getting as popular and you weren't sitting up there. You used the word humility. And all of those, whether it's humility, sadness, or whatever, all of those are emotions. And every single emotion is a signal. And it's a signal to either stop doing something, continue to doing what you're doing, or do something else. And again, the sequence of things in your life, and part of the reason I have you on here, and I love, and thank you so much for sharing the sequence of how, your life has unfolded. Is for people to recognize that every, whether it's your mother, your father, your sister, your brother, somebody said something in high school or whatever, all of those are puzzle pieces that make us who we are right now. And we've all had opportunities to have been taught discipline or learned discipline or so on and so forth. But when something happens, which it happens to us all the time, which the theme of this show is, how do some people stay in it? And I will always say this about you. You've heard me say this dozens of times. And that is that you are one of the most coachable people I've ever met. You seek out, as a matter of fact, that's how we met. We met, both of us went to one of our dear friends, Victor Wooten, his music camp to be coached on how to be better bass players, if you will. And to have better musicians. Thank you very much. Yes. Yeah. And to have that skill and to have that when something happens that we default to, well, wait a minute, let me take a look at this. This is either hurting me or this is helping me. And so if it's hurting me, let me stop it and do something else. Or if it is helping me, let me continue it and also do something else. Yeah. And so to have that awareness is, again, we learn those things from, you had unbelievable coaches and still do in your life. To learn those things from our parents and things like that. Not everybody had parents like yours. I was fortunate. I had great parents as well. And so, I say all of this because, and really one of the biggest reasons I have you on this show here today at this point in life right now is for a couple reasons. Number one, to help people recognize that here is a human being that is like all of the rest of us. And as long as I've known you, and maybe you didn't feel that way when you were 12 years old, and your head was all swole up, and everything, that you always say, listen, I'm nothing special, I just have done things that other people haven't.
Yeah.
And continue to do those things. And, now at, the age you are right now, and moving into where you're going right now, you're in an industry, both of those industries, music as well as the film and the acting, are just, listen, the wake of people that are left behind in that is astronomical. And it's not somehow that you not only have been able to stay in the game, but have thrived in this game. You just finished, as a matter of fact, you said the Resident, that was, you just finished shooting that and you're on to other things now, correct?
Yeah. It's, I finished The Resident. I also had a really great show called The Accused.
Oh, goodness, yes. If you, ladies and gentlemen, if you haven't seen that, go see that. And
yeah.
You didn't warn me about that one. I scolded you.
Yeah, that was heavy, man. So I've had just a really great. These last couple of years have just been really a great run for me in terms of the acting and the music. I put out my fourth record, Hiding in Plain View, in September, which got a Grammy nomination this year as well. So I've been on a really, really cool wave.
Yeah.
And a lot of humility comes with that.
Yes. And anybody listening to you and talking to you right now recognizes your humility. Well, listen, we're going to take a short break in a moment. When we come back, I want to talk about, actually continue this, but I also want to talk about what's next for you, because you have entered an interesting phase of life going forward as well. And so, everybody, again, grab your pad and paper, and we'll be right back with Malcolm-Jamal Warner. Hey, what's good? It's me, Joseph McClendon III, and let me get real with you just for a second. Now, you've probably heard me talk about this before, something that I call the thieves of our dreams. Procrastination, hesitation, fear of failure, fear of success, self-doubt, self-loathing, imposter syndrome, and fear of rejection. Well, let me ask you a question. What if you could not only retrain your brain and your nervous system to automatically default to your absolute best thoughts, emotions, and behaviors, but you could also do the same for others that are going through difficult times and challenges in their own lives and things that are stopping them from creating the life of their desires? Well, this is what I call neuroencoding. And at the risk of sounding arrogant, these are the same tools, methods, and strategies in neuroscience that I've used to operate in the upper 5% of all of my own businesses, especially as a coach, a speaker, and a presenter for the last 30 plus years. The Neuroencoding Institute provides you with the knowledge, the tools, and unmatched support to become a certified neuroencoding specialist and guide you to the life of wealthiness. And remember, wealthy means to be healthy, happy, and financially abundant. Go to neuroencoding.com to speak to an enrollment specialist today, and I look forward to serving you at the highest level.
You're enjoying this episode on Angel Phoenix Productions Podcast Network. To explore a complete lineup of quality programs and media production services, head on over to angelphoenix.com or like our Facebook page at facebook.com/Angel Phoenix Productions.
Well, welcome back. I'm Joseph McClendon III, and I'm here with my amazing guest, Malcolm-Jamal Warner. And before the break, we were talking about this man who has not only been able to sustain a career, actually 2 careers, and now 3, being a husband and a father, but thrive in an area where a lot of people fall by the wayside. And as we left, we were talking about a couple things. Number one, where you are right now share with us a little bit more about where you are right now with regard to your film and acting career, as well as your music as well. And I keep saying music, but you call it spoken word. Forgive me.
Yeah, well, it's music. It's music as well, because it's the spoken word with the music. I think
and as you say that, we're looking at the array of amazing instruments behind you as well. So I know you, as you so aptly corrected me, it's being a musician.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's the journey. So for your listeners who don't know, I'm a poet. I'm a bass player. The music has always been a really big part of my life. Like I said, I put out my 4th album, and the music is a way it's an avenue of creative expression that I have found that I've needed to balance, everything that comes with the territory of the acting side of my career. And the music has also allowed me to kind of use that to express, not just, like I'm known for, doing love poems and social consciousness poems, but I also share a lot of myself in my poetry and my music in terms of my journey, in terms of, my own issues with vulnerability and being comfortable in my skin. So I'm glad to have that kind of platform, one for me to express what I need to for myself, but then also to, to share with other people in hopes that other people, that the messages resonate with other people as well. So the music is definitely an avenue for me to, to get that side of me out and to help, as many people as I can who listen to the music and it resonates. So for those of you who don't know my music, I highly suggest you can check it out. You can go to either Spotify or Apple Music. It's Malcolm-Jamal Warner's Miles Long. If you just type in my name, there'll be features and collaborations with other artists. But for listening to hear my music specifically, it's under Malcolm-Jamal Warner's Miles Long.
And we'll include that in the description here, so you'll be able to click on it or go to it as well. And so this is spectacular. And again, I'll say this again, both of these industries, the likelihood of just success alone, and let alone longevity, is just astronomically low. Yeah. Astronomically low. And so I want to ask, what is next for you? At this stage in your life, what is next for you?
Well, it's interesting because I'm at the stage in my life where let's just say I'm no longer in my 40s. And I've got a wife, I've got a beautiful wife, a beautiful 6-year-old daughter, and I'm at a place where I'm owning myself more. I'm owning being comfortable in my skin, and then owning that I really do have a lot to offer.
Yes.
Like as you've said to me, my longevity isn't just happenstance.
Yes,
right?
Very well put.
And, I'm at a place now where I have to take stock and recognize what of those things on my journey that have, helped instill that longevity. And those are, they're just beautiful lessons that I've learned on my journey, and not just career-wise, but just personally. Like when people ask, my greatest, what's my greatest accomplishment? And it's not so much, the roles that I have done as an actor, but it's having been able to navigate through the murk and mire of this industry and still have my head on straight, still have my soul intact, still be a good person, and be a happy person. And I'm in a place where I want to be able to share that. So that's, some of that we're doing here in this conversation, but I want to, as you help people go further, faster, I'm in a place where I want to share, things and elements and lessons in my journey to also help people, whether they're in the industry or not. Because again, I think I look at my successes as not just what I'm doing in the industry, but my walk in life.
Ooh, and very well put.
I'm willing to share that, or I want to share that.
It's spectacular. And that I'm so glad you said that, because it is truly, I use, I've said this half a dozen times through here, that the industries that you're in right now are very, very tough. Well, there's a lot of other industries as well. Life is tough. And your industry is synonymous with so many other things that are going on as well. And I am happy to share with everybody here that Malcolm and I are actually going to be working together, that we invite everybody here to take a look at as well. And it's something called the Further Faster Elite Circle. And what that is we're going to be monthly, once a month. And the greatest part about what we're going to be doing is not just not just, here's what we've done and here's what other people have done, but not just lessons, but some very specific processes that you can do, that you can use to get the results for yourself, wherever you are in your life right now. And I'm thrilled and I'm honored that you'll be doing this with us, Malcolm. And I'm thrilled for you to be doing this as well, because as you said, your humility came about as a result of all of the things that have happened in your life and
Sure.
the person that you've grown to become. And most people don't have the, let's just say, skill set to be comfortable in their own skin, as you've said several times. And it is a skill. And most people don't have the opportunity to speak to somebody such as yourself. Most people don't. I shouldn't say help. They don't take the opportunity to do that. And so we're going to make that. It'll be in the description here as well about how you can be involved with us as well. And it is something that we are really going to be making a difference, because these lessons that this man has right now, I hope you get it, that they're not just pertaining to him, but they're life lessons. And we always say, I said at the top of here, further, faster, and is about being wealthy, and that's being healthy, happy, and financially abundant. And all of those things come with skill and processes as well. So I'm excited to do this with you, man.
Yeah, and practice as well, right? It's like,
absolutely.
There are things that we know, but it's like, knowledge action is simply theory.
Yes. Absolutely. And most people don't know how to get themselves to get to the point where they do practice or go to the gym or, do the stuff that's tough.
Yeah. And so I'm happy to be in to have a platform to be able to help, give some tools and skill sets that can be practiced to enrich other people's lives. Because I look at my life and I feel very enriched. And sometimes I even have to, as we talk, there are times where, some days I have to be reminded at how enriched my life is. And as we all do, so I think it's, being able to share, whatever tools to, dig ourselves out of, darkness that, some darkness that we're all susceptible to, right? It's part of life. As you said, life is tough. So, I'm happy to be able to, share some tools that have worked for me and presently work for me, because I still presently need them.
Well, Mel, listen, I couldn't have said it better myself, in that life is up and down, and it's going to be faced with stuff, but the ability to, I always say, snap out of it, or as you put it, rise to the occasion or whatever. That comes down to a skill, not just, like you said, happenstance. It is something that once you start to practice it, and it's ironic you're saying that, you're sitting there with all those instruments behind you, knowing that your craft and what you do always comes with practice. And most people don't correlate practice with hard work. They don't correlate practice with the due diligence, if you will, but that's really all it is. But having that skill set to be able to get up early and stay up late and do the extra stuff is really important. So listen, man, we could absolutely go on forever, and I appreciate you more than you know. Your friendship, and I thank you so much for sharing this with our viewers and listeners here. And for everybody listening, remember that two things. Number one, follow this man and listen to his music or spoken word, because that alone is going to put you in a mindset of possibility and what I call optimism, having more options in your life. And then secondly, go to the description, you'll find it, and join us at the Further, Faster Elite Circle. It's just a monthly call. We'll take like an hour of your time. No, we won't take it. We'll give an hour of our time, if you will, and it'll consist of, we're gonna share with you some things, and then give you something to do, and then you'll have an opportunity for a live Q&A as well. So again, it's in the description. Malcolm, thank you so much again for not just being a part of my life, but having inspired me and literally millions and millions of people around the world. And everybody else, remember this: that life is always exactly what you dare to make it. And fortune always favors the bold. So the trick to life is to boldly step up and dare to make your life magnificent. and we will see you at the top.
This podcast was a production of Angel Phoenix Productions. Explore more episodes of this show or other great shows on the Angel Phoenix Podcast Network by visiting angelphoenix.com. The views expressed in this show do not necessarily represent those of Angel Phoenix Productions or its advertisers and may contain language that's unsuitable for younger listeners.